Life is not meant to be played safe. The most profound joys, the deepest growth, and the richest experiences we can have all come from stepping into the unknown, from daring to take risks. Think about that for a moment. How much of what truly matters to you, the moments that have shaped who you are, happened when you stayed in your comfort zone? Probably not many. From the time we're little, we're taught to stay safe. We're told to be careful, to avoid danger, to stick to what's familiar and comfortable. We're praised for playing it safe and warned against making mistakes. This conditioning is well-intentioned. It's meant to protect us, to keep us from harm. But what if it's also keeping us from something greater? What if, in avoiding risk, we're also avoiding, consider your daily routine. Most of us wake up, go through the motions of the day, and then repeat the process day after day. We stay within the boundaries of what we know because it feels safe. But is safety in routine, in predictability? Or is that just an illusion we've built to avoid the discomfort of the unknown? Imagine if we applied the same logic to everything in life. Imagine never trying a new food because it might taste bad, never making a new friend because they might not like us, never pursuing a dream because we might fail. Where would that leave us? The truth is, every time we step outside our comfort zone, every time we take a risk, we're giving ourselves a chance to grow, to expand, to become more than we were before. Risk isn't about being reckless. It's about being willing to stretch beyond what we know, to explore possibilities that are just beyond our current reach. Let's get personal here. How many times in your life have you held back from doing something because you were afraid of what might happen? Maybe it was a job opportunity that seemed too big or a relationship that seemed too risky. Maybe it was something as simple as speaking up in a meeting or as complex as moving to a new city. Whatever it was, think about the reasons you didn't take that step. Was it really about the situation itself, or was it about your fear of the unknown? We've all been there, haven't we? That nagging voice in the back of our minds that says, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if I look foolish? What if this decision leads to something worse instead of something better? These are the questions that keep us stuck, that keep us small, that keep us from living fully. But here's the thing. What if it does work out? What if taking that risk leads to something far greater than you ever imagined? What if it leads to a life that is richer, more vibrant, more meaningful? What if, by taking that leap, you discover strengths and abilities you didn't even know you had? This is what I want you to consider today. Not just the risks themselves, but the possibilities that come with them. What would your life look like if you weren't afraid to take risks? If you didn't let fear hold you back? If you embrace the uncertainty, knowing that whatever happens, you will learn, you will grow, and you will be okay? We often think of risks in terms of what we might lose, but rarely do we think about what we might gain. We don't often ask ourselves what opportunities might be waiting on the other side of our fears. Imagine living a life where you don't constantly wonder, what if I had? Imagine looking back and knowing that you took every chance to live fully, to love deeply, to experience all that life has to offer. You see, the purpose of this talk today is not to convince you to be reckless or to throw caution to the wind. No, it's about inspiring you to embrace risks as opportunities. Opportunities for growth, for learning, for discovering new aspects of yourself and the world around you. It's about understanding that life isn't about avoiding every possible pitfall. It's about navigating through them and coming out the other side stronger, wiser, and more alive. What are you really afraid of? Is it the risk itself, or is it the fear of stepping into the unknown? Is it the possibility of failure, or is it the fear of trying and not succeeding? And if you let that fear continue to guide your choices, where will it lead you? These are the questions that can change your life if you're willing to face them head on. Because the reality is every risk you take is a step towards your true potential. It's a step towards the life you were meant to live. And isn't that worth a little discomfort? Isn't that worth stepping outside of what's familiar? Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience as human beings. It's that feeling that rises up when we sense something is off, when we're about to step into unfamiliar territory, or when we're faced with the possibility of loss. Fear has been with us since the earliest days of humanity, and it's designed to protect us. It's what kept our ancestors alive when they had to navigate a world full of dangers, from predators to natural disasters. But while fear served a crucial purpose in our survival, today, it often holds us back more than it protects us. Now let's take a moment to understand what fear really is. Fear, at its core, is an emotional response to a perceived threat. Notice the word perceived. This means that fear doesn't always reflect reality. Often, it's our mind's way of telling us that something could go wrong, even when there's no immediate danger. It's like an overprotective friend who means well, but sometimes overreacts, telling us to stay away from situations that could actually help us grow. Think about it. How many times have you talked yourself out of doing something because you imagined all the things that could go wrong? How many times have you let that inner voice convince you that it's better to stay where you are to avoid? And what has that done for you? Has it kept you comfortable or has it kept you stuck? Is fear a sign that we are living or that we are hiding? This is something I want you to really consider. When we feel fear, it often means we're standing at the edge of something new, something that could change us, something that could lead to growth. But instead of seeing it as a signal to move forward, we often take it as a sign to pull back, to retreat. But what if we could see fear differently? What if, instead of viewing it as something to avoid, we saw it as a guide, as a signal that we're on the right path? Because fear doesn't show up when we're playing it safe. It shows up when we're about to do something that matters, something that could lead to significant change, when we're about to take a step that could lead to a fuller, richer life. I want you to think about the moments in your life when you felt the most alive, the most vibrant. Were they moments when you were sitting comfortably in your routine? Or were they moments when you took a risk, when you stepped outside your comfort zone? Chances are they were the latter. Because that's when we grow, that's when we learn, that's when we truly live. Fear, then, can be our greatest teacher if we let it. It can show us where we need to go, what we need to face, and where we need to grow, but only if we're willing to embrace it, to see it not as a barrier, but as a doorway to something greater. You see, embracing fear doesn't mean being reckless. It doesn't mean ignoring the voice inside that says, be careful. It means acknowledging that voice, understanding where it's coming from, and then deciding whether the risk is worth taking. More often than not, it is. Because on the other side of that fear is a life that's richer, more meaningful, more aligned with who we truly are. So the next time you feel fear, I want you to pause. Don't push it away. Don't run from it. Instead, ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? What growth is it pointing me towards? And most importantly, what could my life look like if I didn't let this fear hold me back? When we begin to see fear in this way, we start to shift our perspective. We start to realize that fear isn't something to be avoided at all costs, but something to be embraced as a part of life, as a necessary component of living. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities that we never would have imagined otherwise. Remember, fear is not the enemy. It's a sign that you're alive, that you're about to step into something new, something challenging, something that could change your life for the better. And isn't that what living is all about? Taking those steps, even when they're scary, because you know that's where the real growth happens. That's where the magic lies. We often cling to the idea of security as if it's the one thing that will keep us safe from life's uncertainties. It's comforting, isn't it? The thought that if we just stay within the lines, follow the rules, and avoid taking risks, we can protect ourselves from harm. We build our lives around this notion of safety, believing that if we avoid the unknown, we'll be secure. But is that really true, or is this sense of security just an illusion, something we hold on to because it feels safer than facing the reality of life's uncertainties? Think about the choices we make every day in the name of security. We stay in jobs that drain us, relationships that no longer serve us, and routines that leave us feeling empty, all because we fear the unknown. We tell ourselves that it's better to stick with what we know, even if it's not what we truly want, because at least it's familiar, at least we know what to expect. But does that really make us secure, or does it keep us stuck? The same goes for relationships. How many of us stay in relationships that no longer bring us joy, that no longer help us grow, simply because we're afraid of being alone? We convince ourselves that it's better to stay with someone who isn't right for us than to face the uncertainty of being single. We tell ourselves that it's too risky to leave, that we might not find anyone else, or that it's better to be with someone than to be alone. So we stay, and we settle. We trade our potential for true connection and happiness for the comfort of what's familiar. But what if that sense of security is just an illusion? What if, by clinging to what's familiar, we're actually denying ourselves the opportunity to live fully? What if, in our quest for safety, we're missing out on the experiences, the growth, and the fulfillment that come from taking risks? The reality is life is full of uncertainties, and no amount of planning or staying in our comfort zones can change that. We can't predict the future, and we can't control everything that happens to us. But what we can do is choose how we respond. We can choose to live fully, to take risks, and to embrace the unknown, knowing that even if things don't turn out the way we plan, we will have lived, we will have grown, and we will have learned. But here's the thing. We don't have to live with that regret. We can choose to take risks, to step into the unknown, and to embrace the uncertainty of life. We can choose to live fully, to grow, and to fulfill our true potential. It's not always easy, and it's not always comfortable, but it's worth it. Because the cost of choosing comfort over growth is the loss of our potential, the loss of experiences that could have shaped us, and the loss of a life lived fully. What is the cost of choosing comfort over growth? What are you giving up by staying in your comfort zone? And is that really worth it? When we choose comfort over growth, we're choosing to stay the same. We're choosing to avoid the risks that could lead to something greater, something more fulfilling. But in doing so, we're also choosing to avoid the experiences that could help us grow, that could help us become who we're truly meant to be. We're choosing to settle for a life that's less than what we're capable of. So I challenge you to rethink your idea of security. I challenge you to consider that maybe, just maybe, the security you're clinging to is holding you back. That maybe by choosing comfort over growth, you're denying yourself the life you were meant to live. And that maybe by taking a risk, by stepping into the unknown, you'll find that the true security you've been searching for is already within you. We often look at risks as something to be feared, something to avoid at all costs. It's natural. Our minds are wired to protect us from harm, to steer us away from anything that feels uncertain or uncomfortable. But what if we could shift that perspective? What if, instead of seeing risks as threats, we began to see them as opportunities? Opportunities for growth, for learning, for stepping into a fuller, richer life. Because the truth is, the most transformative experiences in our lives often come from the risks we take, not the ones we avoid. Imagine for a moment that every risk you encounter is not a step into danger, but a step toward a greater version of yourself. What would that look like? How would that change the way you approach your decisions, your challenges, your life? Let's take a closer look at the idea of risk. We often associate it with loss. Loss of comfort, loss of security, loss of control. But what if we could reframe that? What if instead of focusing on what we might lose, we focused on what we might gain? When we approach life from this perspective, risk stops being something to fear and start being something to embrace. Every challenge you face, every risk you take is a chance to grow. It's a chance to push beyond your current limits, to learn something new about yourself, to develop skills and strengths you didn't even know you had. Think about the times in your life when you've grown the most. Were they times when everything was easy and predictable, or were they times when you were faced with a challenge, a risk, a moment of uncertainty? My guess is that your most significant growth came from those times when you were willing to step out of your comfort zone, to take a chance on something new, even if it felt risky. Now, I know that the idea of embracing risk can be daunting. We're so used to equating risk with danger that it can be hard to see it in a positive light. But I want you to consider this. What if every risk you took was a step toward a greater version of yourself? What if each time you faced a challenge, you were actually being given an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to become more of who you truly are? When we start to view risks in this way, they become less about fear and more about possibility. Instead of asking, what could go wrong? We begin to ask, what could I learn? How could this help me grow? What new opportunities could this bring into my life? These are the questions that open up new possibilities, that shift our focus from what we might lose to what we might gain. This is the power of uncertainty. It's not something to dread. It's something to embrace. Because within that uncertainty lies the potential for something new and beautiful to emerge. When we step into the unknown, we create space for new experiences, new connections, new opportunities that we couldn't have imagined if we had stayed within the safety of what we already knew. I want you to think about the possibilities that exist on the other side of your fears. What new dimensions of life could you explore if you were willing to take that leap? What new experiences could you have? What new relationships could you build? And most importantly, what new aspects of yourself could you discover? Because at the end of the day, risks aren't just about what's outside of us. They're about what's inside of us. They're about discovering who we truly are and what we're truly capable of. What if every risk we took was seen as a step toward a greater version of ourselves? What if, instead of focusing on the fear, we focused on the growth, the learning, the possibilities that come with taking that step? How would that change the way we approach life? How would that change the way we approach ourselves? The truth is, when we take risks, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, new dimensions of life that we could never have imagined if we had stayed safe. We allow ourselves to be transformed, to grow into the person we're meant to be. And isn't that what life is all about? It's about becoming more of who we truly are, about discovering our potential, about living fully and deeply. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they didn't get to where they are by playing it safe. They got there by taking risks, by stepping into the unknown, by embracing uncertainty and trusting that they would find their way. They didn't let fear hold them back. They used it as a guide, as a signal that they were on the right path. And that's what I want for you. I want you to see that risks are not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. They are the doorways to new possibilities, to new experiences, to new dimensions of life that you could never have imagined if you had stayed. They are the catalysts for your growth, for your evolution, for your transformation. So the next time you're faced with a risk, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what could this teach me? How could this help me grow? What new opportunities could this bring into my life? And most importantly, how could this help me become a greater version of myself? When you start to see risks in this way, they stop being something to fear and start being something to embrace. You begin to see that life is not about avoiding risks, but about taking them, about stepping into the unknown and trusting that you'll find your way. You begin to see that every risk you take is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to discover new aspects of yourself and the world around you. And when you do that, life becomes an adventure, a journey of discovery, of growth, of transformation. You start to live fully, to embrace all that life has to offer and to become the person you were always meant to be. So next time you're faced with a risk, don't shy away from it. Embrace it. See it as an opportunity, as a doorway to something new, something beautiful, something that could change your life in ways you never imagined. Because the truth is, the only way to truly live is to take risks, to step into the unknown and to trust that no matter what happens, you will grow, you will learn, and you will become a greater version of yourself. And isn't that what life is really about? But let's take a moment to really examine this fear of failure. What is it that we're so afraid of? Is it the failure itself, or is it what we think the failure says about us? We often equate failure with being less than, with not being good enough, with being unworthy. We worry about what others will think, how we'll be judged, how we'll judge ourselves. But what if failure wasn't a reflection of our worth, but simply a part of the process? What if it was a necessary step on the path to success? Let's redefine failure together. Instead of seeing it as the end, as a dead-end road, what if we viewed it as a necessary part of the learning process? Think about it. Every great success story you've ever heard, every person you admire has faced failure along the way. They've stumbled, they've made mistakes. They've experienced setbacks. But what sets them apart is that they didn't let those failures stop them. They didn't see failure as the end of the road, but as a stepping stone, as a lesson, as an opportunity to grow and improve. These stories remind us that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. It's a necessary step along the way, a part of the process that helps us learn, grow, and ultimately achieve our goals. Failure is not a dead end. It's a detour, redirection that guides us toward where we need to be. It's in these moments of failure that we learn the most about ourselves, about what we're capable of, and about what we truly want. So, let's reframe the way we think about failure. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid at all costs, let's start seeing it as a valuable teacher, as a guide that helps us refine our path and clarify our goals. Every time we fail, we have the opportunity to learn something new, to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We learn what doesn't work, and in doing so, we get closer to discovering what. This brings me to a question I want you to ponder. What would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? How would your life be different if the fear of failure wasn't holding you back? What dreams would you pursue? What risks would you take if you knew that every step, even the missteps, would bring you closer to your goals? The answer, I believe, lies in recognizing that the only true failure is never trying at all. The real tragedy is not in falling short, but in letting fear keep us from even trying. When we refuse to take risks because we're afraid of failing, we deny ourselves the chance to grow, to learn, to experience life fully. We play small, we stay safe, and we miss out on the incredible opportunities that come from stepping outside our comfort zones. And here's the beautiful thing. Every time we take a risk, every time we step out of our comfort zone, we become stronger, more resilient, more courageous. We build the muscle of perseverance, of determination, of grit. And even if things don't turn out the way we planned, we're still better off for having tried. We've gained something valuable from the experience, something that will serve us in the future. So, the next time you're faced with the fear of failure, I want you to remember this. Failure is not the end. It's just a part of the process. It's a stepping stone on the path to success, a necessary detour that helps you refine your approach and clarify your goals. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from taking risks, from pursuing your dreams, from living fully. Because the only real failure is in never trying at all. Would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? What dreams would you chase? What risk would you take if you knew that every step, even the ones that don't go as planned, would bring you closer to the life you want to live? The truth is, every risk you take, every step you make toward your goals, brings you closer to who you truly are. It helps you discover your strengths, your passions, your purpose. And even if you stumble along the way, even if you experience setbacks, you're still moving forward, still growing, still learning. That's what life is all about, taking risks, embracing the possibility of failure, and using every experience, every lesson to become the person you were meant to be. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to take risks, to step into the unknown, to pursue your dreams with everything you've got, because in the end, the only true failure is in not trying at all. And the greatest success you can achieve is living a life that's true to who you are, a life that's filled with growth, with learning, with courage. Taking the leap into the unknown can feel overwhelming, especially when we're standing at the edge, looking out at all the possibilities, the uncertainties, and yes, the risk. It's easy to get caught up in the enormity of it all and think that taking risks means making giant, life-altering decisions right away. But the truth is, taking risks doesn't have to be about grand gestures or dramatic changes. It can start with something small, something manageable. When you start small, you allow yourself to grow gradually, to build your tolerance for risk and uncertainty. You begin to see that the world doesn't fall apart when you step outside of your comfort zone. In fact, you might find that these small risks lead to positive experiences, to new opportunities, to a sense of accomplishment that you didn't expect. And with each small success, your confidence grows and you become more willing to take on bigger challenges. But beyond taking small steps, it's important to cultivate a mindset that supports risk-taking, Often, it's our mindset that holds us back more than anything else. We get trapped in cycles of fear and doubt, constantly questioning our abilities, our decisions, and our worth. To truly embrace risk, we need to shift our mindset from one of fear to one of curiosity and openness. Start by asking yourself, what if? What if? Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, you focused on what could go right. What if you approach life with a sense of curiosity, eager to see what new experiences, new connections, and new opportunities might come your way if you took a chance? This shift in mindset doesn't mean ignoring potential challenges or pretending that risks don't exist. It means choosing to focus on the possibilities rather than the pitfalls. Another powerful tool in cultivating a risk-taking mindset is visualization. Our minds are incredibly powerful, and the way we think about a situation can significantly influence the outcome. If you constantly visualize failure, disappointment, or negative outcomes, that's likely what you'll experience. But if you take time to visualize success, to imagine positive outcomes, and to see yourself overcoming obstacles with confidence, you're much more likely to create that reality. Before you take a risk, spend a few moments in quiet reflection. Close your eyes and picture yourself taking that risk successfully. See yourself navigating the challenges with ease, overcoming any obstacles, and achieving the outcome you desire. Feel the emotions that come with that success: pride, joy, satisfaction. The more vividly you can imagine this positive outcome, the more real it will become in your mind. This technique not only helps reduce fear, but also builds your confidence, making you more likely to take the risk and succeed. So how can you start taking risks in a way that feels manageable? It begins with setting small, achievable goals. Break down the bigger risks you want to take into smaller, more manageable steps. For example, if your goal is to start a new business, don't focus on everything you need to do all at once. That can feel overwhelming. Instead, start with one small step. Research the industry, reach out to someone who's already doing it, or create a simple business plan. Each small step will bring you closer to your goal, and as you achieve each one, you'll gain the confidence to tackle the next. Celebrate your successes along the way, no matter how small they may seem. Each step you take, each risk you embrace is a victory. Recognize that and allow yourself to feel proud of your progress. This positive reinforcement will help you build momentum and keep you moving forward, even when challenges arise. Now let's turn our attention to the stories that shape our understanding of risk. Throughout history, the people who have made the biggest impact, who have changed the world in meaningful ways, are those who took significant risks. They didn't play it safe. They stepped out into the unknown, often against the advice of others, and followed their inner calling. Think about someone like Steve Jobs. He took a huge risk when he dropped out of college to start Apple in his parents' garage. At the time, it must have seemed like a crazy move, something full of uncertainty and potential for failure. But he believed in his vision, and he was willing to take that risk. That risk led to innovations that have changed the way we live, work, and communicate. Or consider Oprah Winfrey, who took a risk in her early career by choosing to embrace her authentic self, despite being told that she didn't fit the mold of a traditional TV host. She took that risk, and in doing so, she not only became one of the most influential media figures of all time, but also paved the way for others to follow in her footsteps. These stories remind us that the most compelling, the most inspiring lives are not the ones where everything went according to plan, where every decision was safe and calculated. They are the lives where risks were taken, where mistakes were made, where the path was anything but certain, but where the outcome was extraordinary. But it's not just the famous people we should look to for inspiration. We all have our own stories of risk-taking, stories that have shaped who we are today. Think about a time in your life when you took a risk, when you stepped out of your comfort zone and tried something new. Maybe it didn't turn out exactly as you planned, but what did you learn from it? How did it change you? What opportunities did it lead to that you might not have had otherwise? These are the stories that matter. These are the stories that define us. And they are the stories that we will carry with us for the rest of our lives. So what stories do you want to tell about the risks you've taken? What do you want to look back on? Say, I did that even though it scared me, even though I wasn't sure it would work out because I knew it was worth the risk. Imagine for a moment what your life could look like if you decided to take those risks. If you stopped letting fear control your decisions and instead chose to see every risk as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to become more of who you truly are. What doors could open for you? What new experiences could you have? What new dimensions of yourself could you discover? This isn't about being reckless or careless. It's about being bold, being brave, and being willing to step into the unknown because you know that's where the magic happens. You see, the adventure of life isn't about staying safe and comfortable. It's about embracing the unknown, about taking the leap, about trusting that whatever happens, you'll find your way. It's about understanding that the only real failure in life is never trying, never daring, ever stepping outside of what's familiar. Because when you take those risks, when you embrace the adventure of life, you're not just opening yourself up to the possibility of failure. You're opening yourself up to the possibility of something incredible, something life-changing, something that you could never have imagined if you stayed where you were. Are you ready? Are you ready to live the life you were truly meant to live? Are you ready to embrace the risks, to face your fears, to step into the unknown with courage and confidence? Because the life you want, the life you deserve is waiting. It's waiting for you to take that first step to make that decision, to say, yes, I'm ready. The truth is, life will always have its challenges, its uncertainties, its risks. But that's what makes it worth living. That's what makes it an adventure. And when you embrace that, when you see every challenge as an opportunity, every risk is a doorway to something greater, you begin to live with a sense of freedom, of joy, of fulfillment that you never thought possible. So as you leave here today, I want you to carry this with you. The risks you take are not just steps into the unknown. They are steps toward the person you're meant to be. They are steps toward a life that's rich with meaning. They are steps that will lead you to experiences, to relationships, to moments of joy and growth that you can't even imagine right now. Don't let fear hold you back any longer. Don't let the comfort of the familiar keep you from the life that's waiting for you. Take the risk. Embrace the uncertainty. Trust in your strength, in your resilience, in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Because you are capable of more than you know. And the life you've always dreamed of is within your reach, if you're willing to take that leap. Are you ready to live the life you were truly meant to live? Are you ready to step into the adventure of life with courage, with curiosity, with a heart open to all the possibilities that await you? Because the time is now. The choice is yours, and the adventure of your life is just beginning.